Oh, I really hope it doesn't rain. Hey everyone, it's BlueLizardJello and welcome back to the answer portion of my Q&A. I put up a video telling you to ask me any questions you wanted, and for anyone who asked a question that I read on air, I would go ahead and enter you into a giveaway for a Solaire Amiibo. Well, I got a lot more responses than I thought. I got so many, and I got so many repeated questions, and I got so many just friendly comments. I decided that anyone who left a comment on that video is going to be entered in to that giveaway. So if you left a comment on that video before I actually close the giveaway, you are entered. I actually have here all the questions that I've chosen to answer written down, as well as some topics that I'm going to touch on as far as channel updates go, where I've been, things like that. So we are going to get started. As far as the format goes, I can tell you this is probably going to be a little bit longer. My nose itched, sorry, because I have a lot to say about just updates in general, catching you all up, but there was also a lot of good questions that I want to go over. As far as how the video is actually going to look, I'm going to talk a little bit about where I've been, where we're going as a channel and as a community. We are going to talk about some of the common questions I got. In other words, some of those that I got asked repeatedly, or just that several of you really wanted to know the answers to, and then some of the more interesting and unique questions that I got. Okay? That's the plan. Now, this is not the first time I've tried recording this. This is not even the second time. I am now trying on Saturday, the day before July 1st, and I'm hoping that I can get through this without the rain clouds opening up and dumping all of a very, very wet heaven on me. But I am in a lovely spot. I am a big fan of nature, and I'm an even bigger fan of water, so this suits me just fine. I hope you can hear me all right, because I don't think I'm gonna do this again. So if this doesn't work, well, you probably won't have seen it. Anyway, let's jump in. Not jump into the water. Also, I really hope I'm framing this a little bit better. I have no way of knowing, because I can't actually see the screen as I'm doing this. But the big question is, where have I been? I ultimately stopped all content producing sometime around last June. I mean, we're talking about a full year here. Yeah, there were some uploads of Horizon Zero Dawn and the Soul Level 1 Dark Souls videos, but those had all been previously recorded. All of those I had already had ready to go. I just needed to edit them and upload them. But that's why they were able to be staggered a little bit up until I think November. And then of course I had that one video not too long ago just talking about how the Surge was on sale and how you could pick it up and actually benefit the channel as well. And I'm gonna talk about that in this video. But here's what happened. So as many of you know, last year I did try for a few months to go full-time streaming and content creating, YouTube videos, things like that. And it went really well. We actually had a ton of fun. I was streaming 5 to 6 days a week for several hours. I was making videos. And as far as the money goes, because if you're doing it full-time, obviously you need to be concerned about that, it actually wasn't terrible. But it was right on the edge of whether or not it was sustainable. You know, what if for 2 or 3 months you make enough to get by, but then something happens with YouTube monetization, or ad revenue goes down, or people who were contributing can't for whatever reason, which is completely understandable. It wasn't sustainable, or at least I didn't feel it was. So I did end up taking that job that I talked about last year, one that I had already lined up when I decided to try full-time content creating, and I'm still there. It's a job. I don't love every second of it, but it's a job. It's not the worst job in the world, and there's at least a level of job satisfaction, which I've never had before at a job, so that's great. But that's not all there is to it, because simply starting a new job doesn't mean I wouldn't have time or availability to make content. So what really happened? A lot of you have already guessed, and you may have guessed because there are certain videos that are no longer on the channel, and there's a reason for that. And without going into all the details, I'll just put it this way. Relationships don't always work out. Even relationships that you've been in for a while for one reason or another may not work out. And the one that I was in at the time did end. A lot of you should know already what I'm talking about, but that took quite a toll for a number of reasons. And I absolutely had no time, energy, space, or mental fortitude to create videos. And it took a long time to get to the place where I am now, where I am able and eager to get back into it. Now, time and space is still an issue, and I'll touch on that a bit later, but that's what happened. And unfortunately, until I could really sort out some of that personal stuff, it just wasn't possible. So I do apologize sincerely, because I did a horrible job at not only keeping the content going, but also just letting you know what happened. It left a lot of you wondering if I was ever coming back. It left me wondering the same thing. So I'm really close to a major road, so hopefully you can hear me over the sound of motorcycles. Plus, there's a train that should be going by pretty soon. Going back to my notebook. Now, a lot of you asked me about Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, or Sekiro. I'm probably just gonna say Sekiro so I don't come off too pretentious. Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. It is FromSoft's new game. We got to see some gameplay, we saw an awesome trailer, and a lot of you wanted to know what I thought. I'm excited. I am nothing but excited. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit nervous about it, mostly because, yes, as many of you keenly have been made aware, Activision is going to be publishing that game, and they don't exactly have the best track record in terms of... I just felt some raindrops, and I can see them on the creek now. Let's see how long we go. But Activision doesn't have the best track record for being the most consumer, customer-friendly publisher out there. And knowing full well that Sekiro is going to be a single-player only game, that does put some of those fears to rest, because we shouldn't have an issue with loot boxes and microtransactions. I just don't see it happening. I'm putting my trust in President Miyazaki. Oh, there's going to be a train coming, so I probably will pause this here in a moment. But I am putting my trust in President Miyazaki. And I do feel that if Activision really tried to step in and tried to take over and put things in the game that he just wouldn't approve of, I do believe he's going to put his foot down. I hope. But I think the setting looks cool. I love the setting. It's interesting that it's not truly an RPG because there are no stats to level. There's really no gear to collect from the sounds of it. But I'm curious to see where they're going to go with it. There's no online component whatsoever, which could be good. Because if they can take all their time, energy, and money that they would have put into balancing multiplayer, co-op, and PvP, they can now make an even better single-player experience. So I'm excited. I'm a little bit nervous, but as we get details, we can talk more about that. As far as E3 goes in general, I actually made a list of the games that I saw that I was at least intrigued by. So I'm just going to kind of read through those. If I have any thoughts, I'll share them really briefly. But of course, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, Fallout 76. I enjoy Fallout games, and if this can be more of a co-op Fallout experience, I'm on board. I'll be watching that one pretty closely. Anthem, I don't know, kind of a Destiny meets Borderlands vibe, but it is EA, so we'll see. Days Gone, that zombie PS4 exclusive, looks great. Death Stranding. Deracine, I'm probably not saying that correctly, but this is another FromSoft game. We actually saw 3 FromSoft games, which is shocking. But Deracine's a VR game. Now, I don't have virtual reality. I don't anticipate getting it anytime soon, but I'm at least intrigued. Oh, I guess the train's not coming. I'm at least intrigued by the concept. And I'm also intrigued by the fact that it almost looks like it may have ties into Bloodborne. I don't know. It very well could be, us Soulsborne fans really grasping at straws, but it almost looks like the doll makes an appearance. We'll see, as more details come out. Dying Light 2. I enjoy Dying Light, and if they can just kind of, iron out some of those wrinkles in the first game, Dying Light 2 could be great. Gears of War 5. I enjoy Gears of War, so why not? Ghost of Tsushima. Don't know a whole lot about it, but it's another samurai game. I'm all for that. Last of Us 2. Last of Us, the first part, is up there in my top 5 games. Absolutely. It's and I'm actually going to touch on that in the answer to another question later. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I just can't wait to see where Ellie and Joel go in the next part. Neo 2, kind of a surprise announcement there. That'll be fun. Resident Evil 2 Remake. Big Resident Evil fan, and Resident Evil 2 is definitely one of the better ones out there. So, to have that completely remade from the ground up, very exciting. Spider-Man, I can't wait to swing through the city as Spider-Man. And Surge 2. You guys know I really enjoyed the Surge, so for them to be putting out a sequel, which we did already know about, but we did finally get some footage from E3 and from some of those closed-door press events that they had. I think that has a lot of potential. This is going to be one of the original questions that I got. This one comes from my friend Blue Truck with Flames. He's been around quite a while. I hope I'm not showing his leg in this video, because I'm wearing shorts and I'm kind of getting all casual with you. Blue Truck asks, who do you think, family or friend, impacted you the most growing up that has made you into the person you are? And, you know, I gave this one some thought, and it's definitely my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, so my mom's dad, who unfortunately passed in 2012 from a heart attack. But when I look back at my life growing up and who I tried to model myself after, there's no kinder, gentler, and more compassionate person I think I've ever met in my life. When you think of the phrase, you know, they would give the shirt off their back, I have no doubt that my grandfather quite literally would have done that to anyone who was in need. There was just never a time that I can remember him being too rash with anyone, too impatient, or even selfish. He was just such a giving, caring man, and honestly, the world is a sadder place without him in it. So I do think about him often, and I think, how can I emulate that person that he was? How can I show that to the world around me? And honestly, he's impacted the way that I make content and the way I interact with all of you. So hopefully, Papa, you're showing through. I was asked about the community channel by a few of you. If you hadn't seen it, I made an announcement that because I wasn't able to produce content, I had this idea that we could come together as a community and make content and actually start a secondary channel featuring some of your videos. I was very excited about it. We had guidelines. I had judges lined up, people who were going to review your videos and help me really curate that content. And we only got a single entry. And sadly, it was a really good entry, but we didn't really have a platform to show it. So that individual, you know who you are. We're still talking pretty regularly. I really hope we can get you to make some more, because it was very good and I'd love to see more from you. But currently the community channel is on hold indefinitely. We'll see if we have a time and availability and interest to do that later down the road. But that's what happened with the community channel. Nick Delaney asked, who are my favorite Souls YouTubers? The two that immediately come to mind, although I'll give some honorable mentions, but that's Marcus, Epic Name Bro, and Franz, a German spy. I've been watching them for years and years. I would say probably back around the later part of 2011, which is when I first got into Souls, or 2012? Somewhere around there. But I started watching their content, not even so much for the walkthrough, just because of their knowledge about the game. Their behind the scenes knowledge. They had all the Miyazaki interviews memorized. They knew all about the cut content. And it was just fascinating. And it was the first time I've ever really watched gaming footage online. I had never done it before, and I was just so captivated by what they had to say and the way they presented the game and their content. And it was just really cool. So absolutely those two. The other one, an honorable mention, would be Vegeta 311, 311, however you want to say it. He doesn't make videos anymore. I think he occasionally still streams on Twitch. But if you want to see some really cool challenges, go and check out his old videos, especially his, I think he did a Bitter Black Island in Dragon's Dogma level 10 run solo. I think level 10 is the earliest you can go in there, but that was really fun. He also did a series called Everything Possible Before the Gargoyles in Dark Souls 1, which is actually my inspiration for the Everything Possible series in general. I took what he did and I ran with it, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. Another one, LP Dark Souls HD. He looks like he's making a comeback. You might think we're the same person, but trust me, Trace and I are not. He has some really good Dark Souls videos out there as well. And there's a number of them. If I remember more, I'll put them in the description below. I apologize for undoubtedly butchering your name, but Dorje or Dorje Furba asked, has anyone told you that you sound like David Cross? For those of you who don't know David Cross, one of his most famous characters was Tobias Funke from Arrested Development. I love that show. And yeah, it's been mentioned quite a few times. So let's talk a little bit about where we're going moving forward. I mentioned in the last video that I wanted to really start considering the idea of branding. Now, branding doesn't mean I'm gonna have merchandise. I'm not. I had a shirt once, and I actually bought that shirt, and that was the only shirt it sold. And as I wear it, which I still do from time to time, I'm a little bit embarrassed that it ever saw the light of day. So that's not what I mean by branding. What I mean by branding is when you hear BlueLizardJello, something should come to mind. Not just YouTuber, not just content creator, not even just Dark Souls, but I really want the idea of walkthroughs, everything possible, educated gameplay, skilled gameplay. Those are the phrases I kind of want to be known for, as well as the family friendly and the community aspect for sure. Which means that going forward, you're gonna see a lot less blind Let's Plays. Now, I never did too many of them, but when I did, they were more work than value. There was more effort that I had to put in than the return. So return on investment was low, I could say. So there will be some occasionally, if I'm really excited about a game, I may show you blind impressions of it, but as far as full Let's Play series, don't really expect those going forward. I'm gonna be sticking with walkthroughs, guides, and challenges. I do like the idea of challenges, like the Hardcore Expert Terraria playthrough. That was a challenge and it was a lot of fun. The Soul Level 1 series that I'm still doing, yes, still doing, is a lot of fun. So you can expect some of that going forward, but mostly Let's Plays are gonna be going by the wayside. Platinum Adam, you should definitely check his channel out, link in the description below. Fantastic pirate content creator. He doesn't just do pirates, but he definitely has a love for them, very oddly. What initially drove you to create content like the Everything Possible series, and how has that motivation shaped over time? So like I said, Vegeta 311 really kind of kickstarted it with the Everything Possible before the Gargoyles, and I took that with Dark Souls 2 and ran with it because you had even more freedom in that game. As many criticisms as there are out there for Dark Souls 2, the game did a lot of things very, very right. In fact, it is the most open of the Souls games. You get through the tutorial zone, you get into Majula, and you can go in a number of different directions, and you can complete a good portion of the game without ever killing a boss. So I really wanted to highlight that freedom in Dark Souls 2. But going forward from there, I really wanted to get people who were intimidated by the difficulty, by the challenge factor of the Souls games, and I wanted to assist them in getting through them because, frankly, I've never felt such pride as a gamer as when I come across a challenge in the Souls games and I'm able to finally overcome it, whether it's first try, 10 tries, or 3 days later. I'm looking at you, Moons Out, Guns Out, and Bloodborne. Horrible challenge, but pretty rewarding. But I wanted to see people get through that and to feel that sense of pride and accomplishment as they played through it. So that's really where my motivation was. Where it is now, it's very much in the same boat. I have really picked up on this action RPG genre, the Soulsborne genre, if you will, and a lot of people are turned off by it because it has gained such notoriety in the gaming industry and the community at large for being impossibly hard. And that's just not the case. They're very heavily skill-based games, and a lot of gamers just aren't used to that from a third-person action perspective. Now, first-person shooters, those have been highly competitive and highly skilled for quite a long time. But trying to jump into a game like Dark Souls, Surge, Bloodborne, those games take skill of a different caliber, and I really wanted to showcase that, but I also wanted to show that it's completely possible, and I've taught some people of all ages how to get through those games. So that's where the motivation is now. Hopefully that answered your question. I was asked a few times about streams. Currently, streams are not going to be going forward. I just don't have the time set aside to be able to do streams, because usually I stream for quite a while, and even trying to do an hour-long stream would be very difficult. Plus, an hour is just not long enough. It doesn't get the attention of enough people for it to really be worth our time. So I would love to stream again, but I will keep you up to date as I have more information. I've been asked this in probably every stream I've ever done and on numerous videos, but I'll just answer it at large now since a few of you asked this on the last video. Where did BlueLizardJello come from? Where did the name come from? Very simple. First off, I've had this for over 20 years, which is insane to think about. But it came from the time where our family got our first computer. We did get the internet. We had AOL dial-up, and my dad created an account for everyone, kids included, and very quickly I forgot my password. I don't have any idea what the original name was, but we forgot the password, and my dad, not being the most tech-savvy person in the world at the time, he's gotten better, he said that we can just create a new account. Instead of doing the forgot your password, which we didn't even know was a thing, we would just create a new account for me, which was fine. And AOL had a random name generator. he said, all you need to do is give it 3 words, it'll put it together in some unique way, and boom, there's a username. So he said, what's your first word? And I thought, okay, my favorite color, blue. So we put in blue. He then asked for a second word. Well, upstairs in my bedroom at the time, I had a bearded dragon, and I love lizards, still do to this day, so I said, lizard. And lastly, he asked for the third word, and well, you can probably guess what it was. And thus, BlueLizardJello was born. AOL was very creative with its name generator. Wish I had a better origin story, but that's where I came about. Or I could say I was bitten by a radioactive jello who had just eaten, a radioactive lizard who had just eaten blue jello. Ross Kane asked, what was the first game you ever beat? I really had to think about this one, but I'm fairly certain it was actually Super Mario Bros. 2 for the NES. You know, the one where you got to select between Mario, Luigi, Toad, and the princess. And I remember beating that, and I remember Mario, spoiler alert, dreaming the whole thing. He was actually asleep. None of it really happened, and it made complete sense when I found out that was actually just a reskin of a Japanese game called Doki Doki Panic. But honestly, I still love that game. I got actually pretty good at it. I could never beat Mario 1 until much later in life. Mario 3 was pretty easy, but Mario 2, I enjoyed it. I liked the boss fights. I liked the level design. I really loved playing as Princess, being able to glide using her dress, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But then again, we did fight enemies with turnips. And now I'm going to hopefully quickly talk about supporting the channel. Other than, of course, just watching the videos, which is absolutely huge and it's all I would ever ask of you, there are a few ways that you can support the channel. And this is something that's a pretty big change from the channel previously because I have never accepted any sort of brand deal or sponsorship, and at this point I have. I was actually contacted by 2 different companies this past summer, or this past spring rather, that I was actually excited about. The first one is Chrono.gg. If you've never used it, in fact, I had never heard of it until they reached out to me, but it is a deal of the day site for PC games, namely smaller, lesser known developers and publishers. That is actually where that search video came from. So chrono.gg/BlueLizardJello is my affiliate link. If you buy any game from that link, I get 18% of that revenue. The beautiful thing about this kind of support is, number one, this is something I believe in because I have contacted them and talked to them at great length to ensure this is not one of those gray market sites. This is not cdkeys.com or g2a.com, which please don't use those. Chrono.gg works directly with the developers and publishers to get these keys, and they're able to offer them at heavily discounted prices. In fact, often these prices are the historical low for the games, which is really exciting. So you get a game, I get a small portion of the revenue, and the developer still gets supported. This changes every morning at, I believe, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's where I'm at. So if you just save chrono.gg/BlueLizardJello and just check it once a day, or you can check it once a week, and if the game's interesting and you pick it up, you help support the channel and you get a lesser known game that hopefully you would enjoy. I may highlight some of those games in the future if it's one that I think is really interesting and worth playing. The other sponsorship is TorGuard. TorGuard is a VPN. If you don't know what a VPN or a virtual private network is, you should probably look into it. In this day and age, staying anonymous online and protecting your data is important. It really is. And I have used VPNs in the past. I have used TorGuard now for a few months, and they're a pretty solid VPN. You can buy monthly or annual packages from TorGuard, and if you do, I actually get 50% of that. Now, I'm not going to read off the link because it's a whole bunch of letters, but the affiliate link is in the description below, and it will be in the description of each video going forward. Don't expect me to talk a lot about these sponsorships other than this video, and maybe every now and then I'll mention them in passing, but if you ever check them out in the description below, the links will be there. And then lastly, there's Patreon. I've had Patreon for a while. A number of you have supported and continue to support, which is crazy, even though I keep kind of putting it on pause because I don't want to charge you when I'm not even making videos, but I am going to be relaunching that this time with rewards. I don't have all those details figured out just yet, but I will be making a small separate video once I have all of that kind of set in stone, but the link again in the description below, but it's just patreon.com/BlueLizardJello. This is one of those things where if you really do enjoy the content that this channel creates, even pledging $1 a month goes well and above what watching all the videos could ever do. Ad revenue is an absolute tiny drop in the bucket. $1 a month for Patreon is huge, frankly. So for those of you who have already signed up, thank you. Immense thank you, and expect some rewards coming very, very soon. A lot of you wanted to know my thoughts on Dark Souls Remastered. There's not a lot to say. It is the best version of Dark Souls out there. It is something that probably could have been given as a patch and should have been given as a patch on PC, much like the Skyrim Special Edition was. I kind of see it in the same light as Skyrim. It does look a little bit better. It seems to be better optimized, but Skyrim was given free if you already owned it on the PC, and you had to buy it on console, which makes sense. But Dark Souls was not. You did get a discount, but $20 to play the same game over with just better skins and some lighting changes. I don't know. I did get it, and you are going to see gameplay of it on the channel, but I'm a bit disappointed. There's so much more they could have done, but maybe one day we'll get a true remake instead of this flimsy remaster. That's how I feel. Mr. Lightning 8 asked, what is my best gaming moment? I don't really know how to interpret that, so I'm going to just decide that it's my favorite gaming moment, and that actually is The Last of Us. I enjoyed every second of The Last of Us. I've played through it a few times. You may see that on the channel in terms of a guide right before The Last of Us Part 2 comes out. We'll see. But I remember the first time I played, I was so engrossed in the story. I was so enthralled by the characters of Joel and Ellie and their relationship and how it developed over time, that when that game ended, and if you played, I'm not going to spoil anything, but when that game ended and those last moments rolled and the credits started to scroll, I was left speechless. I've never had that kind of feeling playing a game, but I was truly and honestly speechless, to the point where I sat there in stunned silence for the entire credit duration, and then I immediately started the game again. A single-player game with replayability really at a low, because frankly there's not a whole lot to do once you've beaten the game other than go back and get some collectibles, maybe I think they have a New Game Plus, don't they? Maybe. But I immediately started a new game and played through it again. That's how much I enjoyed the story, and it was like a movie that was so good I just wanted to watch it again, but even though I had to put in the 20 hours or so, I was willing to do that for the story. And that's my best gaming moment, was that silence when the game ended. And I really hope they capture that again in the second part. A couple of you asked me, what are my plans after Soulsborne? Because frankly, we're done. Bloodborne is likely not getting a sequel. I don't think we're going to be seeing another Dark Souls anytime soon, if ever. So what are my plans? Well, they're kind of the same. I've already kind of mentioned those. The action RPG genre, the Souls-like genre, is one that I am very drawn into, and I will continue to make content on those as they arise. I do have my eyes on a few. Eider hopefully sees the light of day at some point. Surge 2, of course, Neo 2, and then whatever FromSoft has up their sleeves. Sekiro we know is happening, but it sounds like they do have some others that are going to scratch that Souls itch. In fact, Miyazaki himself might have even used that phrase. So those are my plans, as well as some challenges in other games. But we'll see as time goes on how I can develop those interests in myself, but also curate them in you as well. Seth Burney asked, which series was your favorite to do and why? Honestly, it's probably the Terraria Expert Hardcore series. To my knowledge, and I very well could be wrong, but there was no videos out there. It's starting to rain, and I'm just going to push through this because I really want to get this done. To my knowledge, that had not been done before. At least there was no video evidence of it happening. And I love Terraria. I think it's a phenomenal game. Relogic has just created such a treasure and such a simplistic game. Simplistic at surface, really in-depth at its core. And I wanted a challenge. I wanted something that could honestly go horribly wrong and end prematurely because I died. And that game, that series, was 80 hours worth of gameplay and I don't know how many hours of research. I obviously didn't go into it blind, but I went into it trying to honestly think, how far could I go on a single life on the hardest difficulty that game has to offer? And it made me rethink the way I play. I love games that have hardcore modes. I would love to see Souls games with a hardcore mode. Yes, I know I could just simply delete a character, but it's not the same. Hardcore, when you die, that's it. It changes the way you think. It changes the way you play. You have to be careful. You have to be methodical, strategic. You have to think 2 steps ahead at all times. And I had to do that in that series, which was a lot of fun. I over-prepared, and a lot of the more difficult challenges were made trivial, but I like that. I like that that's even an option. You know, there are some games that no matter how much you prepare, for example, I'm playing God of War right now on the hardest difficulty, which is a mistake. No matter how much I prepare, every fight is just overly difficult. I like the idea that I can take the steps and precautions to become so powerful that the most difficult challenges are made somewhat obsolete. But that's the most fun I had making a series, was that Terraria. You may actually see that series coming back in a slightly different way. Maybe. Chadley, good friend Chadley, the only viewer I've actually met in person, and hopefully that'll change. Of all the videos and content that you have created, what one makes you the most proud as a content creator and why? Hands down, it's the Everything Possible in Dark Souls 1. I love Dark Souls 1. It's my favorite of the Souls games. Yes, it is my first, but I can go back and actually watch those videos, which is odd because as a content creator, I never do that. But I can do that with those because I can see, hear, and feel the passion that I have for that game in those videos. And that last video, honestly, was so bittersweet to make. Yes, it was great that I finally completed that series, and I felt very good about the content. There are some misses there, and I kind of have something on my sleeve as far as those mishaps go. But I was just so proud of how well that turned out, and all of the comments and messages that I've gotten that I've helped people get through that game have just really, really shaped the content creator that I am. That last video, when I put up that choice of whether or not you're going to let the flame extinguish or you're going to rekindle it, there was something about that moment, and honestly, I didn't know that I was going to do that until I was recording. I usually plan everything ahead, but I was recording, and then as I defeated Lord Gwyn, I realized I get to present all of you a choice, just like I first had a choice. And there was something very special about that moment. So that is the most proud of a piece of content I've ever been. Alex Marin, longtime viewer and supporter of the channel. Thank you, Alex. Good to hear from you, buddy. How do you juggle having an expected fan base as well as a personal life? I clearly don't. That's really the answer. There's not a lot more to it. I do a terrible job at it. I either throw myself into content creating and kind of neglect personal life, which has its own ramifications, or I do the opposite and I focus on personal, and then my content creation side really slips. And I'm trying to find the balance. If you have any tips and tricks, let me know. I'd love to hear it. But at the end of the day, personal life comes first. Even more so now than ever. Hunter Winchester asks, when did you first get into the Soulsborne series? It was Dark Souls 1, and it was either tail end of 2011 or 2012. And my friend Josh, I worked with him, he had heard about Dark Souls. I had never even heard of it. But he thought maybe it was up my alley. So what he did was he actually bought the game for his PS3 and invited me over to play it. He bought the game purely with the intention of watching me play it. And that's what we did. I would go over his house every Wednesday. I remember he had a Keurig machine, and we would drink these cappuccinos with a York peppermint patty dissolved into it. I don't know why that just sticks out. It's like I can smell it, I can taste it, and I can picture Dark Souls at the same time. And I would sit there and beat my head against a wall playing Dark Souls for the first time. So that was my experience. It was someone else's game, someone who bought it strictly so I could play it for them. And the rest is history. Jezelbuzz asked, who or what has been your inspiration for keeping the community together and family friendly? And that's all of you. But most importantly, it's been the parents. I have gotten Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and even Discord and Steam messages from mothers and fathers thanking me for my commitment to being family friendly, from keeping cursing and adult language and inappropriate talk and jokes out of my videos. I've gotten so many of those, and every time I do, I have to read them out loud so I can kind of picture them saying it directly to me. That's who I'm making them for. I'm making it for families. I'm family friendly because I want to be for families. I just got one the other day on Steam. She actually left this as a comment on my Steam profile for friends. You can read it yourself. But it was, I think she said she was a Kiwi, and her and her two daughters watch the channel like it's a TV channel. And they prefer watching my videos to most TV series. And they are able to do that as a family because the content is clean. Now, I know that there's violence in my videos. I'm aware of that, and this is definitely an American side of family friendly, but it's me presenting myself in a family friendly manner, not so much the content itself. I don't have control over what's in the content other than displaying it or not, which I have, been careful in selecting what I think is acceptable and tolerable. But as far as how I carry myself, I'm making it family friendly. And it's a very conscious decision, one that I made before I ever uploaded my very first video. And it's honestly paid off in dividends, because every time I get one of those messages, I'm so happy. I'm so elated. So for all of you who have taken the time to send those, thank you. And it's not going to change. I'm not going to change at all. And now I want to go over a couple of honorable mentions before we get into that giveaway. Gusbuster asked, "Hey Blue, are you actually an albino?" Lord Doge said, "You look old." XTGE said, "Is it just me, or has Blue aged like crazy?" Big Bubba asked, "What's poppin', fam?" Nate Banano, "Did you hear Laurel or Yanni?"
Laurel.
Yanni.
Laurel.
Yanni.
Laurel.
Simple. It's Yanni. And then David Korschlock, I can't read my own writing, asks, "Is this question interesting or original enough?" Apparently. And that brings us to the end. And thank you so much for watching. I know it's been lengthy, and maybe you just jumped to the end to see who won. But here's how I did the giveaway. I took everyone's comments, I put it into an Excel spreadsheet, took out all the duplicates because some people had more than one, but I only wanted one entry per person. I then used a random number generator to choose a number between 1 and 153, because that's how many individual people actually left comment on that video. And it chose KK. What's really fun about that is that I've known KK for a few years now. I tried to go back and find out when he actually subscribed, but I know it was several years ago, because I can trace comments back at least 2.5 years. So KK, you won the Solaire Amiibo. I'm gonna be contacting you through YouTube Private Messenger. If it is not something you want, because I know that you are in another country, let me know, we'll work something out. But thank you all for all the amazing comments, the amazing questions, and thank you for the continued support, even though I was gone for nearly an entire year. It just makes my heart so happy to be a part of this. This isn't my community. This is a community that has built up around a common love and passion for gaming. And I'm just so privileged and honestly blessed to be a part of it. So thank you for that. But that is it for this video. Look forward to more content. I have a number of surprises coming out in the very, very near future. And I do mean very near future. And I can't wait to see what we all have in store for each other. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. You know what? I'm so sorry. I had one more question I had wanted to ask. My apologies. Nicholas2465, he asked, "Did you have a kid? How has fatherhood changed you? Because I know you had a kid."